Joyce through is gonna be fine. You solo over A B,
Sure. Okay.
and I'll no. Let's do it 3 times. I'll
3 times?
solo.
Okay.
You solo over A, and then we'll do the head again.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good.
And then on the sunny side of the street, this is the postlude. Let's actually do it a little faster. We'll be fine. It's just that the B section, it's got that kind of. That's kind of a fun little touch, but otherwise we'll be fine. Okay, let's do time after time.
You can catch
Can we work that in somehow?
Good morning. Welcome to Grand River Unitarian Congregation. My name is Joyce Reesor, and I have been attending here at GRU for about a year and a half, which is not so long ago that I have not forgotten the anxiety that accompanies entering a new space for the first time, filled with unfamiliar faces, unknown expectations, and routines. If this is your first time visiting here, we welcome you and acknowledge the courage that it takes to step foot inside the front door. You are invited to follow along in the printed order of service and to participate in ways that you feel comfortable. Please join us in the basement following the service for coffee and conversation. If you are new, we encourage you to visit several times on Sundays or beyond to review our website and sign up for the weekly newsletter, which you can do on the little information cards in your pews. For those of you who have been here for 1 year or 20, the ball is now in our court to put into practice the values of inclusivity that we espouse here at GRU. Meg Barnhouse says, "We gather to worship, our hearts alive with the hope that here we will be truly seen. Here we will be welcomed into the garden of this community, where the simple and the elegant, the fluted and the frilled, the shy and the dramatic complement one another and are treasured. May we know that here each contributes in their way to the beauty of the whole. Come, let us worship together, all genders, sexualities, politics, clappers and non-clappers, singers or silent, progressive or conservative, the word nerds, the tree huggers, the fitness fanatics, and the couch potatoes. May we root ourselves in the values of this faith, compassion and courage, transcendence, justice, and transformation." I invite Kathy to come up for an announcement. Yes.
Is it on? Oh, now it is. So I'm Kathy. I'm wanting to let you know that our Community Builders team is up and running again after a very long pause. And it really feels appropriate to be talking about community builders today when our theme is inclusivity and welcome. And those are values that I think are most precious to me being a Unitarian. The purpose of our Community Builders team is to help newcomers in the congregation feel welcomed and have a sense of connection. If you've been attending over the past year or less, please join us in our newcomers activities. Or perhaps you've been attending sporadically and still don't feel connected, please join us. You will notice that we've resurrected our green ribbon welcomers. You'll see them in the upstairs and downstairs foyer every Sunday with their green tags. They can answer any questions or find someone to help you get answers. And we're also organizing a series of events from now until June to help people feel connected. So meet and greet for newcomers next Sunday after the service. We'll have our usual coffee downstairs, but at the same time, newcomers can come into the multi-room with some of the Community Builders team for a less noisy and hopefully more personal conversation. We're also having a special edition of our pop choir. This is a fun-only choir, no experience necessary and no performances in the sanctuary. We just gather for the joy of singing. So please join us on March 12th from 7 to 9, that's a Wednesday evening. And then we're also organizing a special dinner for newcomers on Saturday, March 29th at Kathy Scott's home. Please see Jane Bell for details, or you can talk to myself. And downstairs there's also a new Community Builders bulletin board with more details of all these events and a sign-up sheet for the dinner. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. Let us let go, just for a time, of the everyday world and create space in this hour to simply be together. In the spirit of life and love, we gather. May the experience of this time prove useful and timely to all assembled here. Please rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening song, number 1008 in the softcover books.
So conventional wisdom is that if something unsettling happens while you're getting ready for a service, that you pretend it didn't happen. But this rattled me a little bit, so I'm just going to let you know before we start that my printer went on strike this morning. We'll be negotiating terms this afternoon. And so I brought the two mobile tech pieces that I own and tried to make the bigger one work, and of course it didn't. So I'm actually going to be reading off my phone. So I'm somewhere between a boomer and a Gen Xer, so I'm on the side that hasn't embraced electronic sermoning. So this is a little bit new experience for me. So if I suddenly get a look of panic on my face and I stop talking, it's because I lost the document. I also will probably be putting on and taking off my glasses because I can't see you without them, and I'm not sure I can read with them. Okay, let me take a few breaths. All right, my name is Janis Collins. I'm a white, cisgendered lesbian with short, wavy hair and lots of freckles. I'm wearing a dark blue long-sleeve shirt and jeans. Let us remember that most of us are descendants of settlers who came from other places and took possession of the land, many times without the consent of those who were already here. Let us remember that some of us are descendants of those who were brought to this land against their will. Let us remember that there were people here before that. May we live so that we can grow into right relations with all the people. So I chose our opening song because I like it and because we know it, but particularly for this verse. When we tell our story from deep inside and we listen with a loving mind and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. I hope these words will shape the atmosphere in which this reflection is given and received. Generally, when I use the word we this morning, I'm meaning the people in the room who experience privilege in their daily lives. If it feels like I'm attacking you or judging you, I promise that I'm not. Please listen with a loving mind. For those in the congregation who experience marginalization in their daily lives, I apologize if, even in this reflection on inclusion, I make you feel excluded by something I say or didn't say. Please listen with a loving mind. Let us center ourselves with our chalice lighting and affirmation. Let this flame be to us a symbol of the wholeness we seek. Its glow reminding us of the sacred bonds which link us to all people. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. We invite children of all ages to the front for a story with Aaron.
I think you can hear me okay. Today's story is called Strictly No Elephants, and it's written by Lisa Manchez and illustrated by Tuen Yen Yu. The trouble with having a tiny elephant for a pet is that you never quite fit in. No one else has an elephant, and if you look in the window, you can see people with dogs and cats and fish, but no other elephants. Every day I take my elephant for a walk. His is a very thoughtful sort of walk. He's carrying an umbrella. He doesn't like the cracks in the sidewalk much. I always go back and help him over. That's what friends do. They lift each other over the cracks. Today I'm walking my tiny elephant to number 17. It's Pet Club Day and everyone will be there. Come along, that's a good boy. I coax him the last few feet. It'll be fine. When I look up, there's a sign on the door. Strictly no elephants. Oh, my tiny elephant leads me back to the sidewalk, never minding the cracks. That's what friends do. They brave the scary things for you. And this is just a very rainy, sad picture, because strictly no elephants. Did you try to go to the pet club meeting too? The girl asks. This girl spots them. Yes, I say, but they don't allow elephants. The sign didn't mention skunks, the girl says, but they don't want us to play with them either. They don't know any better, I tell them. He doesn't stink, the girl adds. No, he doesn't, I agree. What if we start our own club? Come along, I say, making certain that my tiny elephant follows me. Because that's what friends do. They never leave anyone behind. Oh, And now who's coming with them? We've got a giraffe and an armadillo and a hedgehog and a penguin and a little narwhal in a bowl. We can play here, one of our new friends says. All of us. So we paint our own sign. All are welcome. My tiny elephant will give you directions if you need them, because that's what friends do.
Paul Beadle writes about that form of love that we call generosity. Once upon a time, most folks used the offering plate to fulfill their pledges of financial support. Nowadays, lots of folks click on the church websites or on their phones with automatic transfers from their bank accounts, and still some write a monthly check, paying their church bill along with all the others. But passing an offering plate has always been more than just a practical exercise. It has always been a ritual, an opportunity to drop in a loonie or a toonie, something from your pocket, or to take a moment as you pass the plate to consider the gifts of time, of talent, and of service that we offer to this congregation. The practice of giving until it is second nature helps bring forth the realm of love. I invite our ushers to come forward this time and take up the offering.
When we come together, we bring our whole selves. We bring the sorrow and the joy, the pain and the pleasure. While we are here, we have an opportunity to share what feels right, so our family can sorrow and celebrate with us. Please feel free to come forward and light a candle in silence, or to share briefly what you've brought with you today. We light our first candle for strength to live our values out in the world, even when all seems lost.
I'm happy to welcome my mother here from Washington State. This is Nancy Priest, and she's here to visit, but also to hear my Da Capo Chamber Choir concert this afternoon. Shameless self-promotion. And also my Registry Theater concert on the 7th of this month. So it's a double header. Shameless self-promotion. Welcome to Nancy from that country to the south.
Tomorrow, my mother-in-law is having heart surgery for a rare heart defect, so I'm lighting a candle today for her in hopes that she has a swift and healthy recovery.
My name is Corliss. I lit a candle of hope. I woke up Friday morning with the sewer rat of hope standing on my chest. And for those of you who weren't here, that's a poem. The sewer rat of hope that won't let us go. And it said to me, what are we going to do to reinvigorate our democracy? And how are we going to fight to protect the environment, which we need to do, and to ensure that all voices are heard, Indigenous voices are respected, etc., etc., etc. I'm in. What about you?
Morning, everyone. My name is Krista, and I would really like to offer some very warm congratulations to Ashlyn Clancy. And I see she's not far behind me. There's so much work ahead, so I wish Ashlyn all the best for all that effort that she and her family and all the supporters put into getting this win. Yeah.
I'm Wendy, and I lit an F cancer candle for a friend who was recently diagnosed terminal.
I just want to thank Kathy Scott. She's so kind and generous, and I'm so glad she's in my life, and thanks to all of you for your support.
My name's Colin. This is a candle of joy. Apparently at the AGM, you all approved my continuing existence as a lay chaplain, which is greatly appreciated. And I wasn't there because I was in Mississauga doing the talk that I did back here on November the 3rd. And it was just nice to make connections with people from other congregations, and I just think we need to do a whole lot more of that if we can, because it was a great experience. So thank you all.
I lit a candle of joy. I am now a grandfather. My daughter had her first child on Friday, boy. His name is Jasper, and he was 8 pounds, 11 ounces.
Congratulations.
I'm Charlotte. I'm lighting a candle for my mom and my aunt, who are both experiencing health challenges.
I'm Kathy, and I'm lighting my candle this morning for Ukraine.
for this morning and every morning.
And I'm Kathy too, or 3 or 4. And I lit a candle for the Liberal leadership candidates, that we choose someone who's wise, but that's also compassionate and inclusive.
We light a final candle for those who are most affected when governments turn away from their people or choose armed conflict over diplomacy. Ad libs today, but I really enjoyed sitting up here and seeing the collection plates pass from hand to hand. I mean, it can be kind of silly, but it was really a lovely symbol of connection. I would encourage everybody to put their hand on the plate, whether they're putting something in it or not, and remember that we're connected. And now please remain seated to sing our pastoral hymn, number 123 in the gray hymnal, Spirit of Life. Hear these words of Teresa Youngblood, wherein faith is a map, and we are all cartographers. In order to travel the great way together, we have to cultivate a sense of belonging that isn't conditional upon conformity. I don't want a smoothed out, disproportionately aggrandized faith that attempts to draw all corners to its one self-righteous place at the top of the map of humanity, leaving the messiness of their upbringings and lived realities behind them. Instead, I want an imaginative and wandering faith of holy cartographers, eager encounterers who pay exquisite attention to the terrain and the systemic forces that shape it. Leaders who meet people where they are, approach them with curiosity, hold lightly to their own individual stories, and are willing to be surprised and delighted and moved by what they discover in the treasure trove of another. This cannot happen with assimilation. It has to be transformation. We all have to be aiming for transformation and to be willing to be guided not by positions and placeholders, but by principles held in covenant and to which anyone of loving intention can guide us back. The old, top-heavy map simply cannot get us there. Could we teach one another to do this? Could we make the foundation of our faith development learning how to inhabit an open and curious presence? By rooting firmly in our own mutual belovedness as it is so beautifully articulated in the universalist half of our heritage. I want us to heal one another through our fiercely compassionate presence so that we can chart a different path as a matter of lived theology, so that we can caringly release the old one-directional paths that aren't broad enough for all of us to accompany one another. I think this degree of spiritual security and resiliency could be what gets us there, what frees our souls to encounter the sacred terrain of another's experiences. What we discover and share could be our new map, more complete and truer than the one we were handed and that we didn't know we could leave behind. This could be how we grow our new way together. When I started thinking about what I wanted to say this morning, I remembered a past conversation about being inclusive, a concern surfaced, something along the lines of, if we change so that others, meaning others who may not fit into our already established ways, if we change so that others want to come, will we still be ourselves? Do we have to change what we believe? I'd like to explore that more and attempt to define what inclusion is and what it means for us. All groups develop a culture. We usually think of culture as part of a country or an ethnic group, but organizations have cultures too. Corporations frequently try to define and influence a certain corporate culture among their workers. Smaller organizations like schools, neighborhoods, sports teams, and churches each have a unique culture. Aaron Horvath and Amber Bellemare of the Canadian Unitarian Council's Justice and Equity team define organizational culture in this way. It's a set of shared values, beliefs, norms, principles, and assumptions that guide the behavior of people as members of the organization. Organizational culture influences the way people interact, speak, listen, make decisions, address conflict, etc., how certain members are privileged over others, the context within which knowledge is created and shared, and the resistance they will have towards certain changes and/or new ideas. Organizational culture is unique to a group of people, although it can be influenced by other factors, including the organizational cultures of parent organizations and associations. Values, beliefs, norms, principles, and assumptions. Values, I believe, are values, beliefs, and principles, I believe, are the bedrock of our culture. As a congregation, we have covenanted with other Canadian congregations to live with each other and the world in a certain way. 8 principles guide our choices, 6 sources nourish our souls, 5 aspirations help us grow. Without our covenant to guide, nourish, and help us grow, we would not be Unitarian Universalists. Of course, as churches tend to organize within the borders of their respective countries, UUs around the world have different expressions of these values, but even with those differences, we recognize our connection. That leaves norms and assumptions. These are the things we normally do, the rituals we cherish, the order we prefer in our services, the kind of music we expect to hear, the kind of behavior we expect to see. They're the way we tell our history and how we describe ourselves. It's here that we can look for ways to be more inclusive without changing who we are. We've already done this historically as a movement. It's how we got from being Puritans to being a covenantal, non-creedal religion. Let me give you some examples of how this has been done among Unitarian Universalists. The UU congregation I was involved with in Houston had a split many years ago, way before my time there. I never did learn exactly what the split was about, but this group, the one that I was with, had a saying. They got the money, we got the music. We had an interim minister who said, "Stop saying that. You're giving yourselves permission to say, we can't afford it," instead of, how can we do it? He said, there's plenty of money in this congregation. You can be generous. You have been generous. Quit telling that story about yourselves. Our organizational culture had been shaped by that story, but we could change that story and still be ourselves, just ourselves better. Here's another example. There's a song in our teal hymnals called "Standing on the Side of Love." It's written by Jason Shelton. It's a popular song here and in the States. It even inspired the name of the American UU organization's Social Justice Action Group, also called "Standing on the Side of Love." But UUs who were not able to stand felt left out of that song in that group. It made them feel invisible in the larger group. Some of them expressed this to the UUA and to Jason. In response, the UUA changed the name of their initiative to Side with Love. And Jason changed the lyrics of the song to Answering the Call of Love. He even suggested people take out their pens and neatly scratch through the words in our hymnal and write the new ones there instead. I know, shudder. I see Charlotte back there. Here's what Jason said when asked by a writer from UU World magazine about making the change. When someone in your community says they're feeling pain or rejected, you can't just ignore that. What's the work we need to do together to navigate that pain so we become a spiritually mature community? Sometimes we may need to make big changes ourselves. Sometimes we may need to develop coping skills together. We need to keep asking, how can we learn from the hurt? There's a larger conversation around liturgical language as a metaphor that we need to have, he says. But we're not going to have it if the people who hold power treat language as sacred, unchangeable text. How do you move toward equalizing power? I decided I could sacrifice one of my darlings. Now I want to share with you 2 stories from Unitarian Universalists who belong to marginalized groups, and then I want to talk about what we could do to welcome inclusion in our culture. Suzanne Fast says, "The relentless use of embodied imagery leaves many people with disabilities feeling excluded. I often experience that feeling of exclusion, the experience of being part of a gathered worshiping body and then suddenly thrust into the role of other by a worship leader's choice of imagery may not seem like a big deal. But when your faith community tells you explicitly that your differences are a difference too far for you to be included, it is a big deal. When even worship is not a refuge from society's endless negative messages, it is a big deal. More often than not, I'm told it's just a metaphor, get over it. Or to not be so thin-skinned, which is itself an ableist metaphor. This formulation of the pushback is telling, you're too sensitive, or I didn't mean it like that, or oops, I wasn't politically correct. These are all classic taglines of microaggression. When your siblings in faith don't perceive this as a real problem, and that they are erasing your lived experience, it is a big deal. If it's just a metaphor, then find a different one. Connie Simon shares, when I started attending a UU church, I was excited by the promise of worship that would draw from the arts, science, nature, literature, and a multitude of voices. Indeed, some of the voices that Unitarian Universalists hear in worship each week belong to Thoreau, Emerson, Ballou, and others. Their words are beautiful, but they come from a culture and experience that's foreign to me. When do I get to hear voices from my culture? I quickly learned that other than the same few quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. and Howard Thurman's The Work of Christmas, it wasn't going to happen. I sit attentively and listen with my head to their voices, while my heart longs to hear more of our voices. I am a Black woman. When I look around on Sunday morning, I don't see many people who look like me. In most of the congregations I visit, I don't see anybody who looks like me. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised that I don't hear voices of people who share my experience. But it still hurts. I want to hear voices that tell the struggle of living under the weight of oppression in this culture of white supremacy. I want to hear stories of trying to stay afloat in the water we swim in. I want to hear voices of living while Black in America, and I would say North America. So this is what I believe. If people decide not to join us, it shouldn't be for a style of worship or because we're saying hurtful things without even knowing it, or because they feel invisible. It should be because there is something in our principles, sources, aspirations, and covenant that they've decided is not for them. So what can we do to become more inclusive while still being ourselves? UU religious education. No, I'm going to start again. UU religious educator Aisha Hauser frames the question this way: how do we embody, embrace, invite people into a Unitarian Universalism that isn't for one group of people? One group of people does not own this faith. So here's my ideas. First, we need to practice preemptive radical inclusion. This concept was developed by UU layperson C.B. Beale. This is how they define it. Preemptive radical inclusion means that we intentionally position ourselves before we know anything at all about anyone in the room to presuppose that everyone is already and always in the room. We don't wait for an individual to tell us what they need and then meet their needs. We create experiences that preemptively involves them. The burden is on those in leadership to be aware of the needs of the people we are most likely to miss. Needs that can be reasonably anticipated with ongoing education to increase what we can anticipate, along with our capacity to account for it in a way people need. In other words, we don't wait to see if people show up and then see if we can accommodate them. We learn as much as we can about their needs, and we implement. We learn more and implement more. We learn even more and implement even more, and always with accountability. Second, we need to be intentional about language. It is one of our Unitarian Universalist stories that we really, really want to choose the exact right word. And while sometimes that can distract us from what's actually important, in this case, we can enjoy the effort. We've already done this. One of the reasons for creating the hymnals we use today was to remove gender-exclusive language. And sometimes in this congregation, we still make changes in the words to make them more inclusive of non-binary people, say. Let's keep looking for those words that exclude and replace them with ones that include. Let's watch out for microaggressions, defined by researcher Daryl Dwing-Sue as the everyday verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative messages to target persons based solely upon their marginalized group membership. Third, let's make worship part of our faith formation. Let it be experimental rather than a perfect product, like today. Maybe sometimes the sermon can be a little longer than 15 or 20 minutes. Maybe sometimes, if we are feeling the power of the music, we can sing that last verse again. Maybe sometimes there's no sermon, just music. Maybe it's okay to yell amen from the pews when you're really moved. Maybe it's okay to dance in the aisles. Thank you, Ellen Forrester, for your dynamic example. Maybe we don't throw out what we currently love, but we make way for something different. And fourth, let's build relationships with people who are different from us. To do that, we have to leave this building and join the work of others who share our values, if not our covenant. When Anishinaabe Outreach says, we need people to help us prepare our garden for planting, we show up. When the food bank says, we need people to sack the groceries, we show up. When a Better Tent City says, we need people to cook, we show up. So the answers to the questions, if we change so that others want to come, will we still be ourselves? And do we have to change what we believe? Are yes, we can change and still be ourselves. No, we won't change our values and principles. Yes, we can do this. It may be scary, it will be uncomfortable, but it will also be joyful and profound. May it be so. Please stand in body or in spirit to join me in singing our closing hymn, 1017 in the Teal hymnal, Building a New Way. From Julika Herman de la Fuente. If we are going to move our congregations in a direction where we're actually effective anti-racist organizations working to fight for anti-racism, we have to do three different things. We have to do our personal work for sure. We also have to do our organizational work. We have to look at the systems in our organization, including worship. And the third piece is that we have to do theological work. We need to talk about what it is we're worshiping, what it is that we're agreeing on or disagreeing on. What is our theology, and how is that supporting or challenging the status quo? Let's carry the flame. Let the people say, Amen.
Thank you.